Sri Lanka is going through a huge economic crisis. There is almost no electricity in the country. It's running out of life-saving medicines. The sale of diesel is stopped. Petrol is available but in short supply. Even essential commodities like milk and food items are also in short supply. And the prices of these items has skyrocketed. On 31st of March, thousands of people protested outside President's house asking him to resign. The protest went violent. So what went wrong? Why Sri Lanka is in such deep economic crisis? From 1983 to 2009, for 26 years, Sri Lanka went through a civil war. The fight was against the government by LTTE, Liberation Tiger of Tamil Eelam, also known as Tamil Tigers, to create an independent Tamil state. But finally, Sri Lankan armed forces defeated the Tamil Tigers and brought the civil war to an end. After the end of civil war, the Sri Lankan government tried to accelerate the growth in the island nation by borrowing heavily. This helped in the short term and economy boomed, lifting 1.6 million people out of poverty. But the fast growth of the nation led to a huge external debt. During civil war, the budget deficit was huge. Then came global financial crisis of 2008 that drained the Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves. And hence, in 2009, Sri Lanka went to IMF for a loan. IMF provided a loan of $2.6 billion to Sri Lanka with condition that the budget deficit should be reduced to 5% of GDP by 2011. Sri Lankan economy grew at the rate of 8 to 9% from 2009 to 2012. But after 2013, the Sri Lankan economy went down due to falling global commodity price. Export slowed down and import rose. That led to the further depletion of foreign exchange reserve. In 2016, the Sri Lankan government again went to IMF for loan and got another $1.5 billion loan for a 3-year period between 2016 and 2019. IMF put conditions for this loan, and those were fiscal deficit must be reduced to 3.5% by 2020, reform of tax policy and tax administration, control of expenditure, flexibility in exchange rates, improvement of competitiveness, free environment for foreign investment. This IMF package led to a deterioration of Sri Lankan's economic health. GDP growth shrank from 5% in 2015 to 2.9% in 2019. Investment rate fell from 31.2% in 2015 to 26.8% in 2019. Government revenue shrank from 14.1% of the GDP in 2016 to 12.6% of the GDP in 2019. Gross government debt rose from 78.5% of GDP in 2015 to 86.8% of GDP in 2019. If that was not enough, in April 2019, Easter bomb blast took place, leading to death of 253 people. As a result, number of tourists fell sharply, leading to further decline of foreign exchange reserves. Apart from export of tea, rubber, spices and garments, tourism plays a vital role in Sri Lankan economy. In the same year, November, UNP-led government got replaced by new government led by SLPP, headed by Gotabaya Rajapaksa. SLPP had promised lower tax rate and wide-ranging SOPs for farmers during the campaign. After coming into power, they reduced the VAT rates from 15% to 5%. They increased the annual threshold for VAT registration from LKR 12 million to LKR 300 million. The annual income threshold for waiver of personal income tax was also raised from LKR 5 lakh to LKR 30 lakh. The nation building tax, the PAYE tax and economic service charges were also abolished. As a result, the number of registered taxpayers declined by 33.5% between 2019 and 2020, and close to 2% of the GDP was lost in taxes. 5% GST, VAT revenues were also lost in the same period. And then came COVID-19 in 2020. All the exports and tourism suffered heavily. In 2018, tourism earned $5.6 billion and played a big role in balancing Sri Lanka's $10 billion trade deficit. But now, due to Corona, it disappeared virtually overnight. At the same time, government expenditure to control pandemic also rose. Fiscal deficit exceeded 10%. Public debt to GDP rose from 94% in 2019 to 119% in 2021. In 2020, 72% of government revenue went for interest payment of the huge debt of $51 billion. The last blow to Sri Lankan economy came through Russian-Ukraine war. Fuel and other import item prices skyrocketed. Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves have fallen 70% in the last 2 years to about $2.31 billion, leaving it struggling to pay for essential imports like fuel and food.